So the General Assembly is at it again. They finally conspired successfully, and they passed a bill. Okay, the first bill, it's actually the second one. The first one was to adjourn for the first section. So they was able to pass 2 bills so far. The first real bill was passed yesterday, March 2nd, 2015. So get excited, Kentucky. Finally, your Republican and your Democrat legislature have written a bill in order to save you, Kentucky, to help you out, to make Kentucky stronger and better. And what was the bill? What was the decision? I've left the page like this so that way you can kind of see the journey that I have to go through. Usually I do just Google Kentucky legislature. You could have just clicked on legislation actually from the Google map, but here, legislative activity, 2015 regular session legislative record. It's actually pretty cool. They have everything here. They even have like updated minutes, and they have all the bill status, all the ones that have been passed in the Senate and the House. Both of them have passed. The bills in committee meeting, right? You can see all those options. So House Bill 152. Get excited, Kentucky. I mean, this is what, you know, they get, you know, there was a big state representative campaign here in Breckinridge County. A lot of money was being spent from both sides in order to, you know, win the election, to win their campaigns. And they do this all across the state, right? You know, understand elections. There's 100 House of Representatives. There's 38 senators. And then there's an entire, you know, government. So there's, you know, $20 billion is how much Kentucky spends every day. And these people are in charge of how that money gets spent. It's not a budget year, so the money issue doesn't even come up for this year. They pass biennial budgets. So House Bill 152 is an act relating to telecommunications. Create a new section of KRS, as if we don't have, you know, millions of KRS laws. Chapter 278 to modify the telecommunications deregulation plan in KRS 278.541 et sec endmost public service commission authority over exchanges with 15,000 or more housing units. So public service commission, no more regulation for them. They cannot tell AT&T what to do. This is the AT&T bill. That's what Kentucky has done for, you know, we nearly have 1 million poor people in this state, and the AT&T bill is going to help those poor people by letting AT&T not provide landlines for everybody. Landlines expensive. They are obligated to provide landlines for everybody because of the some 1933 act, Communications Act or something. So the because of an old law, right, that says that all people need telephone service, poor AT&T, this poor corporation, has, you know, had to provide, you know, poor people who don't have any money service. And that's just been hindering them. I mean, they make billions of dollars, over $100 billion as a company. AT&T is pretty much a monopoly all throughout the entire country. Just to show you how conservative Democrats are in Kentucky. This is a Democratic governor who supported this and pushed for this. So Steve Beshear was like, hell yeah, deregulate for the AT&T companies. I have local cell phone coverage. Thank goodness I don't need landline. In general, I do think that is the direction of America, to get away from landline, but there are good exceptions that people are talking about. One big one would be emergencies. If there's no electricity, you could always pick up the landline and you could always call something because it was run on something different. But because it's not going to be like that anymore, you know, and there's an exemption for Kentucky too. I mean, I think that's important. There's a law that says every poor person can get a landline. That the AT&T company has to draw telephone lines to every person so that even the poorest of the poor can have access to a landline telephone. And there's lots of people that don't have internet and they can't get cell phone service, and so landline is the only thing that they could do. But AT&T wants to make a bunch of money, so they're going to check out all the areas in Kentucky cities. There's an exemption that said not the rural folks. So I'm not sure how they're going to define what the rural folks are and who the city folks. So I guess, there's 3 big cities. I don't know, Bowling Green would be, a city that would be hit up with this, but Louisville, Lexington, Covington. So those, those cities will have no landline. And there's poor people in those cities, right? There's poor people in those cities. There's people of color. There's Native Americans, too. This hurts like the most marginalized in society. This does nothing. This does nothing to help the problems that Kentucky has. And the fact that this is what gets passed, it shows you that money talks, bullshit walks. The lobbyists, they spent over $100,000 to get this law passed. They've been fighting for 3 or 4 years. So to show you how conservative Kentucky is Steve Beshear, our Democratic governor, was pushing for this bill to get through. And then he got it through. It started in the Senate, then, the House finished up with it. So now AT&T gets to, have a greater strength, a greater monopolistic hold on the whole state, of the telecommunications industry. So when AT&T gets this bill passed, and there's poor people that's in urban areas who don't have money, who doesn't have access, who doesn't have internet, doesn't have cell phone service, they are forced to look elsewhere. They no more landline service is going to be given to them if AT&T decides to pull the plug on them. We're not going to do it no more. You're not worth it. And just pulls the plug on everybody. They're saying, hey, we're not going to pull the plug on nobody. Bullshit. You're a company. You make money. That's what you do. In Kentucky, we're a cold country, but if you don't pay your electric bill, they'll shut your electric off. You don't pay your telephone bill, they'll shut your telephone bill off. Just the fact that they required access, I thought was pretty amazing myself. Really, like, they have to provide access. Good. That's but you still have to pay your bill, but it's pretty cheap, right? Landline's pretty cheap. Internet's free. If we could have I have a plan to get internet for all Kentuckians, high-speed broadband internet, inexpensive, for $0 to $10, and that would save on landline. But still, the emergencies, right? If there's electric outage, your cell phone only has so many bars. Once the 3 hours is gone, you don't have that anymore. With the internet, without internet, without electric, you can't make any phone calls. So that's out. So the internet's out. The cell phone's out. So you're screwed. So in some respects, like, that's for everybody. I don't have a landline phone, but this is a bad bill for the poor people. This is just a deregulation bill. That's all it is. AT&T has been pushing the deregulation bill in many states, and they even pushed it in Ohio. And what's John Kasich, what's the governor of Ohio, going to say about the AT&T bill? He says, fuck the AT&T bill. John Kasich, the Republican in Ohio, is going to veto. Here's another PDF of it happening in I think Colorado or Connecticut. So Connecticut's doing, the same thing there. Deregulation all over. AT&T is trying to deregulate it everywhere. This is the language of the bill, which we'll look at in a second. But John Kasich. Where are you, John Kasich? I just saw, a tab that actually showed him saying that he would veto it. The Republican governor of Ohio would veto it, but the Democratic governor of Kentucky is all for it. It strikes a good balance between modernization and bull crap. They spend $100,000 lobbying you, and that's the people who gets what they want. The people with the money. The AT&T could afford lobbyists. They're in your face. In fact, a Kentucky legislature, you could bribe them for only a couple $100 in the 90s. I don't know if things have changed. They don't make that much. They only make $15,000, but they only have a summer camp, 1 or 2 months. They only have 1 more week left to pass some bills. 1 more week. Both houses have passed a whole crap load, so we might see a flurry. We might see 100 bills get passed. I'm betting underneath 10, and everybody else I keep hearing is either 2 or 3. And it's been embarrassing, actually. They've been at it for over nearly 2 months, and this is the only bill that they've got, and they got it wrong. They got this bill wrong. This is a deregulation bill. It helps with the AT&T monopoly, and it hurts poor people. Poor people who may need to call 911. Hey, I'm in the holler. I can't have no cell phone service. There's no internet service. I did have telephone service, but AT&T says that they're not making enough money on it, so they pulled the plug. Because that's all they care about is making money. They're a corporation. That's what they do. And, it is what it is. I'm not criticizing that part. Greed is what makes, capitalist, that's what they live on. They live and breathe on greed. It just shows we know what they want. We know what they want. More for themselves, less for everybody else. They want to be able to provide the service, a decent enough service that you'll pay your bill and make a ton of money, profit, immensely on it. That's what they want. That's what every corporation wants. That's why you need the politics. That's why you need someone in there saying, hey, you need to do right. And, at one time we did do right because we had the, what year was that? 1930 something. We had that communications. So it's a little bit different. There's they were going to cut the rural areas with John Kasich. So that maybe that's it. Maybe it's all about those rural voters. But that's just what the article is actually written up. To really look at the text, you got to really pay attention to, to see if it's a good law or not. You got to really pay attention to the text. You got to look at it really close. So SB 3. So again, in most public service, this was also written by ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Committee, which is a bill mill for the corporations, right? They just produce a corporate bill after corporate bill after corporate bill, and they keep on just, here's some of the people: Thayer, Adams, Bowen, I don't know, hardly, Schnickel, that's Boone County. So the Public Service Commission Authority, no more over exchanges with 15,000 or more housing units for less populous exchanges. So this is talking about the concentration. An urban area is something that has 15,000 or more housing units. For less populous exchanges, the PSC jurisdiction reduced in obligation to provide basic local exchange wireline service is reduced. Again, even for less population exchanges, the obligation is reduced. Give utility option to substitute internet protocol or wireless service in some situations. Provide that customers in some situations would have a right to reject IP or wireless service and have their wireline restored. Federal jurisdiction unaffected, especially over carrier to carrier issues. NPSC jurisdiction over consumer cell phone complaints. Well, this is something else. Consumer cell phone complaints now. The Public Service Commission is just being stripped. It is just being, just basically just raped. The Public Service Commission is there to regulate for the public, and now they're saying, nah, you get no more regulation. So actually the articles that I've read about this isn't even getting to the specifics of it. I mean, it was basically just making it real general. They was, the AT&T bill, it's for economic opportunity. No, it's not. It's deregulation. It's to stop the AT&T company monopoly in Kentucky from being regulated to providing access to the poor in order for them to have a landline telephone. This is just a horrible bill. This is a horrible backwards bill, and it shows you that our Democrats here are actually conservative capitalists who doesn't care about the poor people. They don't care about working class, middle class, poor people. This doesn't, this really doesn't affect, I would say, most people. Most people don't have landlines, so it don't even affect them. So maybe middle class people are unaffected, but some people still use landlines. People live in remote areas. They did say, they said there was a rural exemption, but I'm here reading now that it's just reduced. The obligation is reduced. So even in rural areas, it's reduced. Definitely in cities. If you're in cities, you're definitely screwed. Not even a question of it. Lexington, Louisville, Covington, you have a landline telephone, you won't be able to have, if they cut it, then you're screwed. You'll just have to figure out something. You have to pay, for their internet, their U-serve or whatever, their internet service or cell phone service. Let's see what else is going on. What other little tidbits do we find? Federal jurisdiction unaffected, especially over carrier-to-carrier issues. NPSC jurisdiction over consumer cell phone complaints. No. I want my cell phone complaints to go to anybody and everybody. I have a complaint about my cell phone. Yeah, I want someone to hear about it. I didn't even know that I had a public service commission to go to. That would be a good thing for the executive branch to put out public information, informationals to let us know what these companies are doing. I had no idea. I've had issues with cell phones. I can't, who do I contact? The corporation, yeah, right. Like they were gonna give a crap. NPSC jurisdiction over consumer broadband complaints. What the hell's going on here? Now, if you have internet complaints, if you have cell phone complaints, they're cutting the Public Service Commission out. They're cutting it out. Retain PSC jurisdiction over wholesale issues, carry to carry, anti-competitive practice. So they left some power. That's real nice. And then amend KRS 278-54611, right? That's how many laws we have. Not only do we have like in the hundreds, but now we're going into the thousands. 54611. I'd like for you to refer to KRS 278-54611. How did you find that law? How many, you read what, for 4 weeks, and you finally found that law? So anyways, that was the Senate version of the bill. I have no idea what the final version is going to be. And actually, Brashear has line item veto. I know that's mostly for the budget, but line item veto means if there's an idea or something he doesn't like, he could just scratch it out. No, I don't want that line. No, let's go ahead and let's keep the Public Service Commission in operation. Yeah, they could take complaints from the internet, broadband complaints, and they could take complaints from cell phones. Yes, yes, yes. Let's keep that commission in effect. But I mean, like I just admitted, I've had issues with internet. I've had issues with cell phones, but I had no idea that I could call the Public Service Commission. Now I know, but it's too late. They've cut it. It's, they don't have any jurisdiction no more. This seems to be very similar, basically, with everything. The exact same language, actually. There are amendments here. So, allow customer to be given written notice within 90 days that service is no longer wanted. 90 days. Amend to require telephone utility operating under a price regulation plan pursuant to maintain workforce levels equal to the number employed for 5 years after the date of election. Wow. So they're saying that the AT&T has to keep their employees. They cannot cut their employees. So they're trying, there's some, I guess, decent efforts to try to soften the blow of what they're actually trying to do here. But it's amend to allow customers 90 days to give written notice that the service is no longer wanted. I mean, this is just stupid little stuff, really. I mean, I'm not going to read all this out loud because I'm already 17 minutes. So this is a big bill, big deal. I want to actually point out this video here, which is going to be the beginning. So that was just the introduction, Kentucky. The sound's going to be bad on this, but I'll explain what's kind of going on. This woman fights in Kentucky. This is a Lexington, in a tobacco shop in Lexington. They're going to get robbed. And it's kind of crazy. I mean, there's like 4 or 5 people that's there. And then you kind of heard a whistle or something. And then the guy comes right in the back. And then she picks up a gun that somebody had laid down. See, he kind of lays the gun down right there. And then he kind of just pushed it back to him. And then she picks it up. And then he chases her. And then they're like scuffling. And eventually they say that he gets shot in the arm. But then he quits wrestling with her and kind of runs off. So he wasn't able to get the gun out of her hand. So, you know, that's strong, a little fighter there. And they said, she says this was a family store. Her mother works, 13, 15 hours at the place. And it's hard for them to make their money. And then they was just going to come in and just kind of, just take it. He tried to take some money as they left there. She actually came back to fight him and was able to keep the register. So most of the money, I don't know what he was able to grab, but he wasn't able to get a lot of it because she really, she fought him. She fought against him. When she picked up the gun, I didn't see anybody else in the store, so it looked like everybody else took off. Uh-oh, this is botched, right? Look at her. She picked up the gun and said, hell no. So that's good. This is good stuff. You have a right to stand your ground in Kentucky. You have a right to castle law in Kentucky. You have a right. In fact, there's laws that says she could have made an arrest. She could have made an arrest there. She could have tied him down or held him in place. Since he isn't going to go willingly, she's going to have to force to subdue him. And the way the LMPD subdued me when I was just walking to the store in my own backyard and they was undercover, they beat the crap out of me. So you're in order to arrest somebody, to stop them from moving, you're allowed to beat the crap out of them, tie them up, If you don't have handcuffs, it'd be weird for sort of a private person to have handcuffs, but you're allowed to have them, right? They're not illegal. And then you keep them there, then you call the law enforcement, and then they arrest them and take it from there. That is legal. It's vigilante laws. And in fact, it started out from a place that if you saw a felon taking place, a felony, a murder, a rape, or something, robbery, and you didn't do anything, then you would actually have been held culpable because it helped with small towns. It started in, back in the olden days of Kentucky, when carried concealed, they didn't want anybody hiding the guns because it made more sense for people to have guns on the outside of their belt so you knew that they had it. Carried concealed means, you don't know who's got the gun, right? Someone might have it underneath their collar, underneath their shirt, right? And so even in the same sort of logic in, old sort of Western frontier, the period of Daniel Boone, the way that they would catch violent felonies or felons, if you were a member of the town, if you were a citizen of the town, you saw a felon, you didn't do it, you'd be held culpable, so you were forced in order to stop the felony. If you're able to stop the felony, you had to stop the felony. Now, it's not written like that now, but that's where the law came from. The way it's written up now is you have the option to stop a felony. And there's lots of actually different felonies. Mitch McConnell was a felon because he passed out those mailers, right? He passed all those mailers out. So if they were able to stop him in the act of mailing those out, I don't know how you could get an arrest. You probably could get arrested any time, right? He broke the law. He's a felon. And so this is upon every citizen in Kentucky. You know that he broke the law. The law is right there, clear as day. The law that he broke, and he absolutely did intimidate. He tried to intimidate people not to go to the polls. He flat out broke Kentucky law. A felony, Class D felony, but a felony, right? A felony. And with the vigilante laws, that means anybody is allowed to arrest Mitch McConnell. Anybody who's got the balls to arrest Mitch McConnell. It'd be easier if you could get a warrant, if you get a judge to sign it, or if you could if you're a police officer, you would just have the capacity to, the state power to arrest. But he broke the law. You're allowed to vote. You're not allowed to be intimidated to vote. You're allowed to walk in, make your vote, walk out. No issues. And that's good. That's a good, a democratic thing. So this was exciting. I'm glad that she fought this guy off. She said she actually knew the guy. And she's like, why are you doing this to us? It doesn't make any sense. And he's like, shut up. Just shut up, man. I don't know why. I get into the wrong crowd. We're all jacked up on heroin. I don't know. I have no idea if there's any drugs involved. It could have been poverty, right? It could have been a legit reason. I doubt it, but, it's possible. But, okay, So that's pretty much it. The AT&T bill. AT&T has spent nearly $200,000 lobbying the General Assembly since January 2014. The Political Action Committee has given $112,000 to state politicians since 2010, mostly to dozens of legislators and to Steve Beshear. So Steve Beshear is bought out. It is legalized bribery, and since they gave him that money, Steve Beshear went ahead and helped AT&T back out. So it's a deregulation bill. It only affects people that need the landline telephones, but it helps a big corporation, and it helps a big corporation who's already got a big monopoly to be able to monopolize anymore. I don't like that. I like, my carrier is a small business person, and I would rather pay a small business person and fuck the monopoly. You can't argue with the superior service. So where I'm at, there's better service here. With the small company, and it's not really this, it's Bluegrass Cellular, so it's actually like I don't know, 10 counties or so, or 5 counties, but it's in this area, it's getting bigger and bigger, but I am in support of it more so than AT&T. Everybody's got their issues, I know, blah blah blah, but AT&T is like the Walmart of telephones. It's the McDonald's of telephones, and since it's since they have the monopoly, I just don't. No, I don't think so. Maybe make it more fair. I don't know. I mean, if they have to provide landline phones for everybody, and now they don't have to. I mean, I just You can't cut landlines if there's no cell phone. You can't cut landlines if there's no internet in that area either. If it's remote, you can't do that. And so maybe the government, Kentucky Telephone or something, should take up the landlines. If people are, I mean, because I don't have a landline phone, I could say, this bill's stupid and it's wrong, but it doesn't affect me, so who cares? And I think a lot of middle-class Kentuckians might feel like that. It doesn't affect me. I don't give a damn. But I do. I care. And I think this is just a horrible, crappy, really, really crappy bill. We have major issues with pollution, with poverty, with toothlessness, with cancer. And the thing that we're going to pass here in Kentucky first is a deregulation bill for, the AT&T monopoly. I want to kind of find the bill, the Communications 1930s bill or whatever, communications law that I had cited. It says Communications Act of 1934. So the Communications Act of 1934, they have to provide universal service. Sure, you can provide service here, and then I guess, I don't know, they have the right of access, right? How does telephone companies, they're all mad because they got to, put all these poles and wires up and whatnot, but they have access to, the roads. They have access to right next to the roads and to be able to string all their lines everywhere. I can't just put up poles anywhere I want to, all throughout a region, to just provide lines to anybody. So it's yeah, it costs money to do it, but they also have access in order to do it. They can run cable on those lines, and that would help with internet, and then that would help with telephone. Not in emergencies, though. I mean, this doesn't help with emergencies whatsoever. With poor people who don't have, landline access, if they cut landline access, I could see them intentionally cutting landline access and forcing you to buy their internet or forcing you to buy their cell phone service because it'll be more money. And it's a corporation, right? That's what they want to do, maximize profits. Who cares about the customers, and just provide them whatever service or whatever that they can afford. If they can't afford it, then who cares? Who cares about poor people, right? Corporations don't care about poor. If you have no money, then you will never be a customer. You'll never buy their service. So be gone with you, right? Just go out to L.A. and get shot by the cops. Who cares, right? Or go to Arizona or New Mexico where that one homeless guy was like, all right, I'm gonna get my stuff. Just wait for a second. Get him. Pow, pow, pow. Dead. Right? Well, yeah, I mean, he was homeless. I mean, what do you expect, right? I mean, he was homeless. It's not like homeless people have a right to live in America. In fact, if you're homeless, you'll get discriminated against. People will look down on you. Why don't you get a job? Why don't you do this and do that? And then you're sleeping under a bridge and you freeze to death or you get shot up. And so landline service, this bill wouldn't affect you if you're homeless. If you're that poor, it wouldn't even, it wouldn't even matter. But corporations clearly don't care about the poor, so it's got to be the politics. It's got to be the politics, and the politics aren't checking the unmitigated greed that corporations represent. Then nobody will. Nobody will. So this is pathetic. This is so sad. This is not a good day for Kentucky. Yeah, good job, Kentucky. You passed a deregulation bill for AT&T. You helped a big, major if you believed in the free market, I mean, how do they have a monopoly on being the phone of last resort anyways? I mean, how do they even have that? I think, I would actually like to check to see their market share, to be honest with you. Why do they have the issue, but none of the other cell phone carriers has this issue? Is it because they're the main? I think it's because they're monopoly. They're the main landline telephone, provider in Kentucky. And so they would be the ones that would hit up that everybody has to have a landline. Now they don't have to provide a landline to people, definitely not in cities. And for the people out in the country, you'll have less access. If they want to cut, they'll probably will. They're a corporation. They can do whatever they want to do, right? Bill you, send you to court, pay for a bunch of lawyers, make you look like the bad guy. When all you wanted to do was call 911 because your wife went into labor or your kid fell down in the creek and gassed his leg. So I have huge issues. I mean, they just clearly don't give a crap about poor people. The Democrats in Kentucky don't care about the poor people. They don't care. I mean, that alone would have made me stop from voting on this. There was one lady actually that stopped. I want to mention her name. and I guess I'm about finished. I've talked about it enough, but it's a deregulation bill. Make no mistakes about it. The Nation wrote an article about it. They've been trying for 3 or 4 years. The people that even supported it admitted it. It was written by ALEC, which is only since 2010. So they've been pushing this 5 years throughout the entire country. They finally got Kentucky to cave. They spent a ton of money on it. And it's something about IP protocol. Everything's going to be online, so they just want to, try to provide telephone service, I guess, through the internet. But you got to have electric in order to have the internet, and you have to have the internet, right, in order to have the internet, which means cable lines to your house, or it means satellites. And satellite dishes, that costs money too. So if we got to invest in satellite dishes, in order to get internet or to get telephones, the government should just put up one big pole and provide the entire state with internet. So this, let's see, Tom Fitzgerald, he says that it doesn't, it makes people less safe because emerging technology doesn't yet support potentially life-saving things like medical monitoring and alarm services. So medical monitoring and alarm services are going through landlines. So again, with the emergencies, additionally, that people without landlines aren't guaranteed they can call out for emergency when the power goes out, which is what I've been harping on, because voice over internet, other technologies need outside power supplies. He also said that he doesn't believe the bill will cause AT&T to spend more money in Kentucky. They're going to spend where they can make the most profit. They've been spending the same amount here for the last couple of years that they said in 2012 represented an aggressive investment. Right. So, and again, here's more money that they've spent over the years. It will become law. Brashear is in favor of it. Both the House and the Senate passed it, and so it's waiting for Steve Brashear's signature. But since he's already voiced his support for it, the signing of this bill and it going into law is inevitable. Robin Webb, my hero. I don't know anything about her. I like her blonde hair and her little sash. Actually, I guess I could play this out. That's how I'll end this. And I'll kind of search through these things. No, Harlan Daly, you cannot use my location. What the hell is your problem? I already read the act, and actually, I hope I showed you how to get to it, because I know I opened up a couple pages here. But again, for less populous exchanges, the Public Service Commission. The Public Service Commission is done. It's over with. Stick a fork in the Public Service Commission, because they just, you went ahead and let AT&T have free reign. They don't have to listen to your complaints about the internet. They don't have to listen to your complaints about the cell phone. And then if you need a landline phone, well, you're going to get that pulled away from you too. So the Public Service Commission, it has no authority to do, Jack Crapo. This actually is a really exciting report by the president in how to make police officers do better. And actually, I'm really excited to sort of read the recommendations. It's like a 70-something page report. So that's exactly the type of thinking and the type of work that we need to actually see, or that actually I need to do. So HB 152, congratulations, Gumshoe. You're now Kentucky law, and thank God for the legislators. Thank God they all convened and had all those conversations. Just thank God. Here's some interesting. Actually, I like this. mycn2.com. They have like this scrolling Twitter feed.
This is a deregulation bill. This is what this is all about. And they're in Washington appealing a ruling. They've been fighting since 2008, their own briefs, saying their own words what they're up to, and that's to have deregulation. And when the Kentucky safeguards and the PSC and all those are removed, that's just one step closer to this monopoly who's doing quite well, who exceeded all Wall Street's expectations in 2014, and is my carrier. And I've gotten letters every year saying how much they've invested in Kentucky and plan on investing in Kentucky. So they've invested in Kentucky. They're going to continue to, and they're going to do it at the expense of the consumer. I vote no.
Oh, slammed. I am in love with Robin Webb. Oh, who is this Robin Webb? From Grayson, Democrat from Grayson. I love the accent. She had a pleasant face, spoke very confidently, and she was right on the issue, which is the most important thing. She says it's a monopoly, one step closer to the monopoly. There's no more Kentucky safeguards. The PSC, they're removing as much of that as they can. It's a deregulation bill. That's why, you know, these articles aren't making any sense, because they don't tell you the truth. They'll mention one radical, right? The corporations do whatever they want to do. The AT&T, they spend advertisements for newspapers. These corporate newspapers aren't going to say anything about another fellow corporation, right? They're all in it together, and except for, you know, Senator Robin Webb, a Democrat from Grayson, and she's in the, you know, the GOP-dominated Senate, which is, you know, sad for her, but she still remained resolute and strong. This is deregulation. That's what this is. We know it's deregulation. They've been pushing for it for the last 5 years. That they spend all this money on lobbyists, and the reason why you know how much the lobbyists are and how much money is because it's all public information. So they know that it's all public information, that they're spending the money. They're telling the whole world that they're spending the money. This is the purpose for spending the money, to get the monopoly's interest shoved down Kentucky's throat. And May the 2nd, 2015, AT&T was successful, and the deregulation bill was shoved down Kentucky's throat. That's the only bill so far that has been passed. I am not impressed. This is embarrassing. This is stupid. This is not even close to, you know, how does this help cancer? How does this, if anything, this only increases more, you know, satellite and cell phone services. Have we looked into the science and technology of all these, you know, radio waves going through the air and going through our brains? I mean, that doesn't seem like that could be really healthy. All these, I mean, just going through the air, is that good? They say a cell phone, you'll put a hole in your brain, right? You don't want to hold it too close to your head, because eventually you'll get a hole burned in your brain. Well, what about just general cell phone coverage, the satellites and the poles and the, you know, all that? I think we need to look into that, right? And they're forcing us to get cancer. It doesn't help cancer. It doesn't help the economics. It doesn't help the education or the health. It helps nothing. It helps none of the major issues that Kentucky is having. It helps the corporations. It shows where the priorities are of Kentucky's legislators and the representatives. And I'm done. It's fucking bullshit. Fuck the HB 152. Come on, Kentucky. We can do better than this.